All right. Good evening, everyone. Good morning. Good night, wherever you are in the world. How are you doing, Dirk?
Good. How are you? Hello, everybody
I'm
out there.
great. I'm great. So yeah, what a crazy market we have. I mean,
Yeah.
who expected this move from Bitcoin?
Not from Bitcoin. I mean, the markets are kind of doing what we've been saying now for months, but still, I think we are seeing some really exciting levels, especially also in the S&P 500, in my opinion, and the Nasdaq. And yeah, to my surprise, really, we've seen Bitcoin outperforming the stock markets to the upside. I mean, that's something that just happened to the downside in 2022.
Yeah.
So I think the components slowly are kicking in that are going to lead us eventually into the new bull market again. Not yet, but in the not too fast distance.
Yeah, and that's something I wanted to focus on today, because I know that in our previous live streams we've done together, we talked a lot about. Well, you talked a lot about your macro view on the
Mm,
S&P 500 and that soft landing and peak inflation and all the
yeah.
interesting theories that you've talked about. So I wanted to kind of dive a little bit deeper into that. But before we go into an actual look at the charts, I want to thank PrimeXBT for sponsoring these live streams. And if you want to support me in the channel, you can go to the link in the description below, sign up to PrimeXBT, and you will get up to 7K USD deposit bonus. And don't forget to follow Dirk on his channels, which is on Twitter, PrimeXBT Academy, and on YouTube. You can also find all the necessary links to that in the description below. So maybe you want to start off here by maybe looking at perhaps the S&P 500 and what
Sure.
your thoughts are
Yeah.
on that.
Let's start with the S&P 500. So it's really exciting times. Like this downtrend we've been seeing here since the beginning of 2022, really, which I mean, you rarely see it so clean, really being respected in terms of resistance like this, in my opinion. This, especially this zone, this yellow trend line that we've been bouncing off over and over again. You know, definition or really textbook definition of a bear market, lower highs, lower lows. And it seems like at least that it's trying to come to an end now, because we actually broke over this trend line, and the magic area here is of course also 4,000 points, which kind of is like a psychological barrier. I'm actually waiting a bit on the sideline there personally, because I think if we go down here, hopefully today, tomorrow, potentially into this area of 3,980, this could be a good long trade. Not necessarily because it will definitely go up then, but that would have an extremely good risk-reward ratio. Because if we really continue, if we bounce off that resistance, which then of course is going to become a support, here we have a tremendous upside signal potential, which easy can very quickly lead us here to 4,200, maybe the top a couple of weeks or months down the road to 4,500. That is, of course, a big if, because sadly, I have to say, it's not all on the tactical side again. We have the interest rate decision of the Federal Reserve Bank next week. I believe it's Wednesday. And this is going to have a huge impact, whether we are going to make this, whether this support is going to hold or not. Because if we see that, in my opinion, something like the Fed only hiking the interest rates by 25 basis points, so 0.25%, that would first of all give an indication that the Fed is kind of following the slowing down of the inflation. And second of all, maybe even more important, is always the statement after the release, half hour after the release, where then Jerome Powell is kind of going to share the thought process of the Federal Reserve Bank, how they want to continue their interest rate strategy in the future. Now, if we look into history, what we actually would need to see for a while is that the inflation, that the interest rates are above the inflation rate, at least for a while. So if you see something like inflation rate coming down to 4%, interest rates at, let's say, 4.75% or 5%, you normally see this for a while until the cycle of lowering interest rates is starting again I personally expect this to happen maybe in Q3 or Q4. That is, of course, if we don't see another weird black swan event, a pandemic, a war or something like this, or something we are not expecting at all. And so a bad thing for the market that you cannot take into any forecasts, of course, otherwise it wouldn't be called black swan event. But if things turn out to be normal, I personally think the US economy is much stronger than it's been made on media. And if we then see in Q3, Q4 interest rates slightly falling again, this is going to fuel the next bull run. So don't be like in my opinion, too euphoric at the moment. I think it's a good trade setup, but it's a swing trade. So it's got nothing to do with a long-term picture. In my opinion, the long-term picture is still positive. It's actually very positive in my opinion, but it will largely depend on the outcome that we are seeing next week. Expect a bit of turmoil like we saw 2 weeks ago when the inflation data was released, which always are also setups where, if you like to trade with indicators, at least for a couple of days, they're probably not of much use because the market is only reacting to the economic facts. So exciting times. We can also later look on what that means actually for Bitcoin, maybe in the long run.
Yeah. And also, I regret to inform you all that my fiance has told me that I need to wash the PrimeXBT hoodie, so I don't have that on today. It's definitely a change.
At least you have one. I don't even have a hoodie.
Oh, you don't have one? Wow.
I don't have one, no.
We need to fix that. So there's definitely a change in behavior in the trend of me wearing hoodies. So that has to change. Now, I want to show you my S&P 500 chart as well, because I have basically the same levels marked out. The trend line here, like all my trend lines, it's not really perfect. I'll look at it. I do something roughly. But yeah, it's the same type of trend line. It's good areas. Now these the white lines right here is something that I've had on the chart for quite some time, and I said that if we do have a break above this trend line right here, and we can reclaim this horizontal level and bounce here, it's the first sign of a change in behavior. Because usually what I like to do is when I look at trends, I try to first look at the chart and ask myself, is the trend clear? Is it obvious? And then I mark out the obvious levels. And if it's a clear downtrend, we can also look for pretty clear invalidation levels. And what I like to do is I like to look at the behavior of the trend, and especially the most important pivot points, which is these touches of this trend line. And we can very easily see that these touches here, these three touches, has a very distinct characteristics of it. You have one rejection here, same thing here. But then you come down to this area where it looks much different. So this, in my opinion, would be like the first idea that we have a possible change in behavior happening, because we have multiple touches of this trend line in the same area, even with a big fake out right here. And then what happens off on that fifth retest? And a trend line, the more it gets tested, the weaker it becomes as from the area that it gets tested. So then on the fifth retest, because I do view this as one single retest, on the fifth retest, which is this one, we break above and we have a retest of that level right there. And what I find interesting here is if you add fibs to these low, you'll see that it came down and it very nicely hit that 50% level right there, almost perfectly. You can see on the candle closes here on the daily that it's just perfect, right? And it fits with that lower part of the support area. So in my opinion, this is a very clear break in the behavior of the trend, because this has never happened since the creation of this trend line. So what I'm thinking is we now have the first sign of a break in market structure, but it's not confirmed, in my opinion, until we reclaim this 4K region, let's say 4K to 4.1K. And that could happen, in the next couple of days, or around the time where you have the Fed interest rate decision on February the 1st, I believe. And I also believe that we're going live together at that time, 30 minutes before the announcement. So definitely get ready to check out that live, which is going to be on your channel, the PrimeXBT Academy channel on YouTube. And if we do reclaim this level, I think we're in a bull market. That's, technically, I don't see a reason why we would not be in a bull market if that happens. And what we're seeing right now, in my opinion, is the first signs of the bull market kind of showing that it's possible that it's starting. I know that you've talked a lot about the peak inflation scenario, and when we first start to see signs of inflation peaking, the markets are going to react. We're going to build the bottom around that time, is what we've talked about, I believe. Do you see, are we in a peak inflation environment? Do you see that theory still holding true? I think you're muted.
Okay,
there you are.
Now I'm not muted anymore. I think it passed the test of time actually very well, in my opinion. I mean, like you said, we've been talking about this for a while now. I first believe I mentioned it when we saw this first tick down. I said, like, okay, look what happened in the past when inflation was above roughly 6%, which is this green line here. Every time it started ticking down again, you can see this with these red lines here, indicated it was more or less the bottom of the stock market. And I don't see why that shouldn't be the same case again. I mean, you always have like people saying, yeah, but this time it's different. It's not, it's a supply-driven inflation. It's not a demand-driven inflation. I don't think
what's not so sorry to interrupt you, but what's not different is trends. That it's not different. Higher highs and higher lows and market structure. That's not different, and it has never been different. So
that's like you said, I don't see why it should be different this time. I think it's going to play out the same way it's playing out always. But of course you need, and that's why it's so important, in my opinion, to also kind of look at those really, really long-term charts sometimes. I mean, this one goes all the way back here until 1950, because if you just concentrate, on those daily activities on the chart, or maybe what's going to happen the next 2 or 3 days, you kind of lose the big picture. And part of what we want to do as traders is, like, we want to make our life easy in a profession that's not easy at all. So every puzzle piece that can make our life a little bit easier, we should really value. And I think this is one of those puzzle pieces where I say, okay, this is maybe the turnaround time now. So I would like, in my longer term trades, or maybe even my swing trades, which I maybe want to hold for a couple of months, I would prefer maybe long positions now. And I think what you just worked out there with the S&P 500, what you showed there, is you're also nailing this. You can see this change in market structure happening in real time. Like you just really beautifully showed, look at how the first 3 times the S&P 500 was behaving when it touched this downward trend. Look at the last time how it was behaving. There was already hope that we would break out to the north. We had this large fake out. That's why it's always also important to wait a little bit until the daily candles settle, not to jump onto the train too fast. And like I said earlier, I think the scenario now really is going to be that one more time, hopefully we are going to touch this trend line on the way down and then take off to the north. But again, guys, it's really this is a situation that's dependent on what's going to happen next week. So there still could be a lot of volatility to the upside and downside before that happening.
So one could say that if we talk about, the question, is the bull market confirmed? I would say it's not confirmed, but it's showing signs of a change in trend and change in behavior of the trend. So we have the first initial clues of possibly the bear market being over and the bull market being on. I think what's going to happen on the 1st of February might actually be what decides if it's actually obvious or not. I think that's going to be
if it's happening already now, or maybe it's happening, like 2 or 3 months down the road. It's going to happen. The question is now, or are we going to see one more slide down first again and then up? That is also possible, but that's the nice thing, areas like this always usually give you a very nice risk-reward ratio if you find the setups there, and so it's worth taking the risk, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So let's dive into Bitcoin here and crypto, because I think a lot of people are interested in Bitcoin, because I am as well. I mean, this move is just beautiful. I think I want to cover two things. First of all, is Bitcoin bullish again? Should we be buying Bitcoin? And what about everyone that has not been buying Bitcoin? What should they be doing? Because a lot of people are feeling FOMO. I'm getting a lot of questions. Should I be buying now? Like, what about everyone who's waiting on the sidelines for some type of confirmation? What type of confirmation should they be looking for? When is it time to start buying Bitcoin again? And if you start buying Bitcoin around these levels, what should you expect in terms of downside potential? So that's the things I want to cover in the rest of the webinar, perhaps. And let's start with that question: Is Bitcoin bullish?
Well, clearly, yes. I mean, we've come up now from, what was it, like 16,500 to tops 23,000 and something. That's a huge move. Made like over 40% almost there, 30% an upside. That is a huge move. And I think mainly this rally was also a bit, to a certain extent, let me zoom in here a little bit. You can see this very well in those candles, fueled by liquidations. Like people that were short on Bitcoin and got margin calls. And when it's like, in a room with a lot of people where a fire breaks out, everybody wants to exit the door at the same time, with the result that nobody gets out. A so-called short squeeze in this case can be in the opposite direction, obviously, as well. Then it's a long squeeze. This was the main driver. However, the narrative has changed. I would be a little bit cautious at the moment after a move like this. It wouldn't surprise me to see a little bit of a setback. Now, what I usually like to look at, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago as well, is this beautiful tool of the so-called, can I actually zoom in here a little bit? No, cannot. Of the so-called altcoin season index, where I noticed that whenever this red line, so it compares over the course of the last 90 days, have altcoins performed better or has Bitcoin performed better? Altcoins, by definition, in the top 50 is everything but Bitcoin minus stable coins. So those go not into the calculation as well. And whenever you see that Bitcoin becomes stronger again than altcoins, and we touch this area here of 40 or 30, then usually we see an upswing in Bitcoin. If you go really through the chart, it's scary actually how often that happens. So we've seen this with a little bit of volatility. Now what's going to happen? We're going to see a little bit of Bitcoin strength. We also see this very well reflected here in the Bitcoin dominance, in my opinion. I've been saying kind of, for me, the missing ingredients to start a new bull market. We should see it rise to 46 to 50% to confirm it's a new bull market. That always happens before a new bull market starts, that we see a dramatic rise in Bitcoin dominance. However, we also prepared then that this eventually will turn around again. If we then, on the contrary, see that altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin by 60%, so before we were talking about this line here at 40%, now we are here at 60%, then usually you will see a phase where the price of Bitcoin will go down again. And so I wouldn't be too euphoric now at the moment that we are going to see Bitcoin basically going to the moon. And you're absolutely right. There's so much FOMO suddenly. And for me, it's always astonishing how fast the sentiment in cryptos can change. Like one day, everybody's saying, oh, we're going to 10,000, Bitcoin is dead. And suddenly then we see a move of 10% or more. and everybody gets euphoric again. I've seen crazy predictions out there with somebody saying we're going to $1 million in 2024. I mean, come on, guys, really. That
Yeah,
is
but it's important to remember that most people, like, now every that the engagement farming gets going on Twitter, because like
absolutely.
there's nothing like bullish hopium. Like if you want to increase your followers on Twitter and get engagement, there's nothing like bullish hopium saying like, all right, it's confirmed Bitcoin is going to 1 million. It's like you're gonna get so many retweets, but it's stupid because nobody knows. Like it's absolutely crazy. Now, of course, there I've seen some sophisticated analysis of probabilistic moves to upside, which is fine. But it's
maybe one more thing. If you look here at the market structure after 2017, so after we hit this high and we had this 1 year bear market there, we also had those moves to the upside, which were crazy. And remember, everybody out there was also then calling, oh, this is a new bull market, especially this structure here for a large part of 2019, only to see then the price going down again. I mean, all the way here from 14,000 to almost $3,000 US. Granted, but it was a black swan event because of COVID. But still, we're going to see this volatility. So yeah, absolutely, it could be that we see Bitcoin now, rather quickly go to 35 or 40 or maybe even 50,000 US, just to plunge down again to 50,000, and all of this in 2023. So be a little bit careful, like you just mentioned, Lip. Don't ride the FOMO train. Wait for the good levels. Wait for the clear technical setups there. For example, by using the system Lip is using, this is going to make your life so much easier.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about that. I want to show the Bitcoin chart here, like give some advice to people that are actually FOMOing here and asking like why. Because we gotta understand, like most people watching this are new traders, and they're perhaps struggling to stay consistently profitable, and they are obviously watching this and they're gonna be like, I should have bought Bitcoin. They probably don't have a plan, and when you don't have a plan, it's easiest to jump in and FOMO. I think like Bitcoin is, and I'm just going to put this out there, Bitcoin is not going to $1 million anytime soon. It's or 100,000. It's probably going to take a long time for that to happen. Otherwise, imagine what the shot would look like if it happens in a short amount of time. It's crazy. But what I'm thinking here is, I had two scenarios on the chart, right? So I had one scenario where we looked for a retest of this level, and then scenario number 2 where we looked for a break and retest of this level. Now, scenario number 1 is pretty much invalidated, because if we do come down in this region again, it would probably signal significant weakness, because we are then inside the previous range. So we're inside the range, and if we lose the range EQ again, we're back inside this boring range, and the market structure is once again rather bearish, because we got to remember that we have not yet broken above these highs right here, which is the high that I consider being the important one on the daily. I also have here, target for scenario number 2. So first of all, what I want to see here is and I have these arrows on here, I wanted to see a breakout, and then a rounded retest here on the daily. So I want this red level to act as support. And if we can have a nice rounded bottom here, just like this type of structure or this structure, but in reverse, I do consider the target of 29K or 30K to be probable. If you go to this chart, you'll see that 29K is around this area here. So you would come up and test the major breakdown level, which I believe this might be the Luna crash. I can be mistaken, but at somewhere here,
that was June, yeah, that was Luna, definitely. Yeah.
So if we can, come up and test that level, I think this is going to be like in my opinion, there's no question about it. This is going to act as resistance, in my opinion, and I'm thinking that we might see something like this, where we have a retest, break these highs, and if we do manage to break these highs here, the next obvious level would be 29K. So one way I would trade this is to buy a confirmed bounce here on the daily, And then when you have that confirmed bounce, you can very easily use this structure as your invalidation level. And when you hit this level, which is the 20, let's just say 24.5. Yeah, 24.5. I would take some profits at 24.5, secure the trade, and then let it run it to 29K, where I would probably take rest of the position off and then look for a new opportunity to trade. Because I do think that the move up here is something that I've been talking about for a long time. I do believe that this region is where the real FOMO kicks in.
Probably.
That's where people will, because people like, what if we just continue pumping like at least like that, and we don't retest that level? This is where the major FOMO will come in on Bitcoin. And imagine the rejection at this level when everyone just jumps into Bitcoin. We have people, probably, imagine January the 1st comes along, you have the Fed interest rate decision, showing a signs of bullishness. Maybe, it's going out in newspapers, people are talking about it. Your old friends and colleagues are going to text you about Bitcoin. It's the time to buy Bitcoin because they know you're a Bitcoin trader. And we should all use that as a signal that the market is too overheated. And if that happens in this region, I think that's a good sign, both technically because it's is a major resistance level, and also psychologically. If we see everyone being super bullish and we're hitting resistance, we got to use that signal as a signal to take profit. Like, all the major tops in the history of Bitcoin have been very easily identified by the numbers of celebrities endorsing Bitcoin. And it's true. I mean, I remember the top in 2017 when Katy Perry came out on Instagram, and she had her fingernails were painted in different altcoin symbols. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I remember at the time I was thinking, that's awesome. Bitcoin is going to go to 100,000 easily. And that was the top. And I remember, the top here. You remember the the FTX and everyone around the FTX. Like, in hindsight, that was dangerous. So that's how I will be looking at the possible top for Bitcoin.
Talking about celebrities, I remember this time we had like Paris Hilton. Is she actually a celebrity anymore? I don't know, but
I think she is. Let's give her there.
She still is probably. But like Matt Damon doing the advertisement for Crypto.com, which kind of became the laughing stock of the internet, in my opinion, when it comes to crypto. What I think is like very interesting, what you just showed, like this structure we've been seeing here. Maybe you can show my chart here one more time. So zoom in a little bit, and you said like, okay, we had like this structure here, and we kind of see the same structure now here, in my opinion, characterized by those long wicks you are seeing to the upside. That, from my experience at least, I don't have data on this, it's really just experience based now. What I'm going to say is you see that quite often if the market wants to go up, but there's like the missing strength still, because people tend, of course, at one point to take profits as well. And this will normally lead to a volatile event. And it could be, like you just said, very easy that we go directly to this next level, which would be then around here at, oh God, I'm such a bad painter here on TradingView, around this area, or maybe, all the way FOMO up to almost 30,000 again. But the more likely outcome, and this is what we always want to play as traders, we want not the FOMO outcome, we want what is the most likely to happen. And I agree with you that the most likely to happen is that first we are going to down again to retest this area between 20 and 21,000. And if that holds, then, oh my God, I agree with you. We are going to see crazy FOMO again.
Yeah.
And I hate it. I don't like this FOMO. I want Bitcoin to become a more respected and adult asset class without so much FOMO. I mean, don't get me wrong, institutional traders can FOMO too, but it's different.
Absolutely. And I think, it's maybe like I'm always waiting for that retest, because like I'm making more money from my trading, my day trading and my swing trading, which is for me basically the same thing. I'm
For me, I
calling
mean,
myself.
I would love it to go to 30 straight away because I'm like 95% invested with my with my long-term portfolio in stocks
That's
and
amazing.
Bitcoin since end of November already. And
Wow.
but short term, of course, I'm not FOMOing in now. I really would like to see this retest of 21 to 22. And then it is such a psychological important area also, 20,000, always around numbers, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 10,000. So let's see what happens there. Again, probably we're going to see the move next week on Wednesday.
You know, I'm not nearly as not nearly as close to 95% filled with my long-term positions, but I did some calculations yesterday and I looked at where where does my money, like where can I give the money most opportunity to grow. And I did some calculations on my average drawdown on my trading account and my return on the trading account, which is, this month has been just amazing. It's been, I don't know, like this last 3 months I've just entered a very good zone where
I,
everything's just automatic. Like
I
it's
saw your
just so
post
good.
on Twitter and I thought like, oh wow, he really has a run at the moment. Nice. It's lovely,
Yeah, I
no? I
mean,
mean, if you put so much work into a system like this, hundreds,
yeah,
thousands of hours, and then
yeah,
finally you can also go through a time where just puzzle pieces click together and it runs like beyond your wildest imagination. Because as traders, very often, of course, we have those drawdown phases, where even though we know our system works, it's like one of those phases where it just moves sideways, a little bit up, a little bit down, not much happening, not many trades maybe are happening, and then boom, suddenly you enter a
exactly.
phase again where things click together.
And that is so important. I mean, I think that is one of the most important things in one's trading career is when you actually experience that time when you just wait for something and you get frustrated because you're losing trades, you're not finding the good ones, and then all of a sudden everyone, like, you have 5 trades a week and it makes like 2 months of profits. Like,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. I mean, this month I'm at 90% win rate, and
Wow.
I've made over 10% this month. So I did the calculations, and I asked myself, like, where is my money growing more rapidly, and what's the risk of my long-term holdings in Bitcoin versus my trading account? Well, I look at my trading account and say, oh, I made 10% this month, and the average drawdown is no more than like 3 or 4% over the course of my whole trading history. So it's like the risk is minimum and the
Yeah.
reward this month has been really good. So what's the risk on my long-term holdings and what's the risk to reward on those long-term holdings? And I found that I'm making much more money in my day trading account than I could dream of in my long-term holdings, because
Wow.
if I would be making the same amount of money, I would need to have a very big amount of money in my long-term holdings, and the risk on that account is much higher because obviously I'm not using any stop losses. I just have a psychological stop loss level
Yeah.
where I'm going to average out of the portfolio. So for me, I'm starting to treat my trading portfolio, because I have such a strict risk management. I'm starting to treat that as my savings account, right? Where my money is just growing so much quicker on my trading account than it could ever be doing in the bank or in my long-term holdings. So even though that I try to diversify my investments and into long-term holdings and trading account and that sort of stuff, I still have to. I that has helped me to not FOMO into Bitcoin, because when I'm doing the calculations, like, it's not even worth it. It's much better just to stick with the system and just trade that system, because I've just found that works for me. And I think a lot of people have to kind of experiment with what type of trader they are and what type of trading system they want. Like, do you want to have a long term perspective, like a couple of years? Do you want to have like a day trading strategy, and try to focus on what you're really good at? And some people are probably going to make a lot of money because they know how to manage risk very effectively with long-term holdings on, for example, Bitcoin. But honestly, like, I have a when I start buying spot positions on altcoins and Bitcoin, I I tend to screw up with the risk management aspect quite often, because I buy a product and it's like I'm just holding it, and then I don't have like a solid plan for when to exit. But when with my trading account, like my day trading account, I I know exactly where to exit and how to take profits and all this stuff.
But I mean, that's like the ultimate goal as a trader that you are displaying there at the moment. You have to find, first of all, your strategy where you are comfortable, not only comfortable, but also confident with, because you know it works and you can, excuse me, you can trade it 1-to-1, and then come to the conclusion, well, this is what works best for me. I feel confident. I know what I'm doing. I'm confident and comfortable with my risk management there. I see also the results on my account. So why should you do something else? Then you shouldn't.
Yeah,
You have found
yeah,
what every trader is looking for.
yeah. And I remember, in the beginning, everyone, talked about. I guess there's one risk of having, a lot of money in your trading account, is that something happens on the trading exchange and the stop
Yeah,
loss doesn't get filled. I think that is my only fear right now, is if something happens with the exchange or something like that, and my stop loss does not get filled, because that would obviously be catastrophic, right? Now
yeah.
the good thing,
The bigger
yeah,
you get, the more important this comes to do your due diligence when it comes to counterparty risk. And
yeah,
even
yeah,
there,
yeah,
you can feel, I mean, like we saw with FTX, nobody
yeah,
expected that, me the least, but luckily, I mean, you can kind of circumvent that, in my opinion, thanks to the use of leverage. If in reality, let's say you are trading 500,000, you don't need to have the 500,000 on the account with the exchange you are trading. If you can deposit, like, I don't know, 50,000, and then compensate that with a leverage of 1-to-10.
yeah.
And
That's a great that's great, because I've PrimeXBT, I think they offer up to over 100 times leverage, so you're able to have quite a
yeah,
not a lot of money on the exchange, but still trading big accounts.
yeah,
And I've looked at my legacy trading on my legacy trading and on PrimeXBT, I've seen that my margin level is like not more than 20%. So
mm,
I could, I'm only really using 20% of the available margin, which means I guess that means I only need, a little bit more than 20% of my
yeah,
uh, of my capital on the exchange. I think that's a good point, and also that's a point about leverage trading that a lot of people don't really realize, that leverage and margin trading, for me at least, is a risk management tool, because when you understand stop loss placement, you understand risk management, there's really there's nothing dangerous about leverage trading or margin trading. You just have to have a stop loss in, and as long as you have control over your position sizing and risk management, it doesn't really matter. I think that's a great point about leverage.
mm. That's really, that's would have been the conclusion. Now I exactly would have worded it like you. Leverage is for risk management. Of course, the way it's treated by most beginner traders is that it is for gambling.
Yeah,
Because we read all those beautiful stories again on social media, with people posting screenshots that they made 1,000,000% thanks to using a leverage of 1-to-200 or 1-to-1,000 or whatever. Little do you know that they probably, in order to achieve that, have tried like 1,000 times and actually
yeah,
lost more money than they won with that trade. Absolutely, yeah.
yeah. I remember in the beginning where I got stuck in that kind of like gambler's mentality. I remember so vividly. I mean, was standing in the kitchen. I had my Binance app up on my phone. I was trading the futures market, and I had like I don't know, 75 times leverage or something like that. And I just saw the profits. Like if I risk this,
Mm,
$300 on this trade, I'm going to make, $500. I mean, $5,000 on that
mm,
account. I'm like, that seems like a great deal, and I just got stopped out, and I remember running the account down to zero in a matter of 15 minutes, just on 6 different trades.
mm,
And that was really, a a pivot point in my trading career. I kind of sat down and like, oh God, I lost everything in 15 minutes. I probably have to focus on trading, on risk management. And that's when I started reading about risk management. And when I understood risk management, I was so surprised that I didn't focus on that earlier, and how simple it was. Like, new traders, they look at risk management and like it's something special, and it's not easy to understand, but it's super simple. It's so simple. It's risk 1% per trade or whatever, and you're all good. I think yeah, go ahead.
Can I just like an anecdote here? I did an interview yesterday with an ex-hedge fund manager who was like a very cool story, because he went from being 150,000 euros actually in debt to becoming a multimillionaire. When he started with trading, he found this supposedly guru who was trading for him. He gave him 50,000, and this guru sank the account within one day.
Wow.
So what did he do then? He gave him another 100,000 to recover the losses, which were gone in 2 days. And then he was on the brink of really saying like, oh God, on the brink of actually jumping out of the window, because the 100,000 was money he borrowed from his parents.
Wow.
But luckily he has kind of a fighter mentality, and he actually sat down and said like, okay, I want to learn this. I want to learn everything there is about. I want to earn this money eventually back. And over time, he became so good and so sophisticated that he was able to open his own hedge fund and is nowadays a multimillionaire.
That's amazing.
I mean, that's like a drastic lesson, of course, to go through, losing 150 to gain a couple of million. But just the moral of the story is, if you start trading, at some degree, you are always going to go through this. It's normal in the beginning to stumble and maybe even sink your account or lose a lot of money, lose a lot of percentage, let's put it like this, of your account. Don't worry like too much of it. That's why we always say also, don't like risk your life savings when you start trading immediately. You maybe should slowly get there. Start with a little bit of money first until you get the hang of it, and don't give up. Educate yourself. I mean, you are the best example. You have again and again sat down in front of your charts, back tested your system, look again, modify it until now you've reached a point where you say, I'm confident in what I'm doing. And this is like what you radiate also. I'm confident in what I'm doing. I'm not like letting other people influence my opinion anymore when I have one on an asset.
I think it's also very important to be humble, and also to say, I would say that I'm definitely an expert at trading my system, but I know very little about trading on the whole. Like there's hundreds of indicators. I don't even know what they're doing. Like there's Likewise. Indicators that I'm using in my system that I don't even know what the calculations are or how they work. I just know what I do and what works for me. And a lot of people I see, they're like, they're trying to be like these trading gurus and these trading experts, and they know everything about everything. But very rarely do you meet a professional trader that's like, yeah, I know everything about trading. Like, no, you know everything about your system, right? And that's usually how it is. Like, I'm a trend trader. I wouldn't even want to be trading a range because I don't know how to, right? And like, you said something interesting about that interview, like that he had a warrior mentality, and I think that is a major part of like every professional trader that has made this their life. None of them has given up. That's important to remember. None has ever given up, right? And if they have given up, they've always gotten back, because you need that resilience, and you need to really be strong and resilient in the face of what the market is going to do to you. And it's going, like, you're going to be able to, like, it's going to show you some parts of your own mentality that you didn't even know existed. It's going to really drive you crazy at times. And I mean, I wake up every day and I'm just feeling blessed, because I remember in 2017 I had a group of friends. We bought Bitcoin, and we kind of talked about and joking around about, imagine if we could have an office and we could just be doing this all day, just be looking at charts and buying stuff. And here I am, I'm doing exactly that. I have my office at home. I work for myself. I'm self-made. I do this exactly what my dream was, right? And here I am. And it probably took me 4 years. and now I've been doing this for 6 years and I'm still learning. So people that get into this game, they think like, in 1 year I'm going to be doing this and this and this, but instead maybe think, nothing in terms of time horizon. Just think that I'm going to do this, and with enough time, at some point in the future, I'm going to be able to be profitable. However, I do think it's possible to become consistently profitable within a year if you start with the right approach. Not a lot of people do that, but for example, if I would have a mentor from day one, because I got a mentor in 2019. That's 2 years after I started. And when I did have a mentor, it took me about 1 year to get to a profitable system. So I do think that if you start from the right approach and the right realistic expectations, somebody that tells you like, this is how you should be trading, this is the risk management you should have, and all that, I think it's possible to get there within 1 year, probably 2 years more realistically. But
yeah, it's like learning a language. No, you can do it by yourself, and you can be successful with that, absolutely no doubt. Or you can have somebody who is teaching you, or at least guiding you a little bit on what you should focus. Probably it's going to shorten the time frame. And I mean, that is also, I think, beautifully saying what we both of us are trying to do here on YouTube and on social media. Kind of, show the people, be the coach, and guide the people into the right direction. At least that's my mission, to find their correct system, their correct own risk management that is kind of suitable for their character. Everybody is different there. And if that happens, I actually just recently had somebody texting me that he became profitable. He said, thanks to my channel, but I think that's just part of the equation then, honestly speaking. And that's like, those are the moments I live for.
Yeah.
Apart from what you said, being able to do, to be in a profession that you love. How many people can do that? How many friends do I have that complain on Sunday to me, oh, Jesus, I have to go to work again on Monday. And I'm like, it's amazing. Oh, thank God, weekend is over. Monday, I can, do what I love again.
Yeah. And not only are we doing, what we love doing and what we like doing, we also, like you said, we help people. And I'm pretty sure you, like you said, you got that message, and you're probably getting similar message like that pretty often. And so am I. And it's just it's fantastic, because I have one student. He's been with me for like 1.5 years right now, and he's currently doing he began with me with no experience whatsoever. Like he didn't even know the different type of candlestick charts and all that. So he had no idea about anything, right? And now 1.5 years later, he's doing a funding challenge, and he's actually on his way to he's close to getting funded.
Wow.
And he demo traded for 1 year, for 1 whole year. Like I never done that. Like, that's a long time. So he demo traded for 1 whole year, and he made on average 5% a month on his account.
Awesome.
And he had like a 60-70% win rate. So he's actually doing much better than I'm doing. And now he's doing a funding challenge and almost about to get funded. And stories like that is just it really, I mean, the ability to have this life myself is fantastic, but the ability to show people that it's possible and give them the opportunity to also have the freedom is, it kind of becomes a life mission, because if you're able to help people that way, there's no better way in to help people, because you can give money to charity, or you can show people how to make that money. And I would absolutely, the whole idea about, give a man a fish and learn, teach him to fish and all that. I would much rather teach people to fish, right?
Yeah, it's satisfying on a whole new level, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right, man. I think we're done for today. It's been a lovely live stream here, mixing some technicals and fundamentals, and as always, some trading psychology as well, which I think is always very very good to have you on and talk about these things, because you're honest and you're straightforward, and I really do appreciate that. We need more like that in this space.
Thank you. Always a pleasure here to be on those live streams with you. I really enjoy that, and I think it's really, really worth my time. Really.
Awesome. I love to hear it. And guys, if you want to follow Dirk, which you should, you can find all the links to his channels, which is on Twitter, PrimeXBT Academy, YouTube, PrimeXBT Academy, all the links in the description below. And yeah, that's it. Don't forget about the live stream on January the 1st in 1 week, where I think it's going to be around 18:30 UTC, where we're going live 30 minutes before the Fed interest rate decision, and that is going to be a huge event. So that is going to form that's going to be very important in terms of answering the question: is the bull market on or not? So I hope to see you all in that live stream, and yeah, thank you all for joining, and thank you, Dirk.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Take care, everybody.
Take care.